we get recognized everywhere. It doesn't matter where we are in the world. I mean, we were at Universal yesterday, walking through the park.
Les Gold lost everything that made him who he was. It stripped him of his health, his show, and the freedom he'd always guarded. The pawnbroker who once drew huge crowds saw everything tilt after a heart scare in his early 50s. His shop now mirrors a harsher economy, with people coming in just to stay afloat. But what really happened off camera? And why does Les say it's the worst he's ever seen? Join us as we talk about Les Gold and everything he lost. Street-level apocalyptic warning. Les Gold revealed the truth on how America is doing from behind the counter at American Jewelry and Loan, his sprawling pawn shop on Detroit's 8 Mile Road. After 50 years in the business, this third-generation pawnbroker calls himself a street economist. He gauges the country's heartbeat by what people pawn and whether they come back to reclaim it. Lately, that pulse looks grim. When Les went on Fox News, his message was blunt. The line of people pawning items has doubled in 6 months, while the redemption line is almost gone. Folks bring in valuables, borrow against them, and never return. Valuables stay unclaimed because their owners can't cover the interest, let alone the principal. This reality showed how bad things had gotten and reaffirmed the fact that Americans weren't living paycheck to paycheck. It was worse than that. Les instantly corrected Fox host Laura Ingraham, who echoed that sentiment about the paychecks, saying that term was too generous to describe how people were surviving. His customers live week to week, sometimes day to day. Paychecks don't come steady, but the bills never miss. Les's stores see about 1,000 customers a day, each one a personal financial emergency. Multiply that across the country, and millions are in crisis. And Detroit's not unique. Pawnbrokers across America are reporting the same thing. The industry has become an early warning system for the economy. Pawn loans are the last stop before collapse. For people already underwater, that's the only safety net left. When someone reaches that counter, they've already burned through every option. Les has faced economic storms before the recessions of the 80s and 90s, the 2008 financial crash, and even the sudden shutdowns of the 2020 pandemic. But nothing has felt quite like this. Back then, people pawned to cover temporary setbacks, recover from a mistake, or manage a short-term gap. Now, the desperation runs deeper. Customers aren't pawning because they overspent or mismanaged money. They're pawning because their wages no longer stretch far enough to cover rent, utilities, groceries, and necessities. Every loan is an act of survival, a calculated decision to keep the lights on, the kids fed, and the family afloat. The pawn counter has become a frontline view of financial strain, a daily testament to a reality where even hard work doesn't guarantee stability. This is structural, grinding, and relentless, and Les sees it unfold in real time with every item that crosses his counter. Official reports may say inflation's easing or employment's steady, but they don't show the family pawning their TV for groceries or the parent pawning a laptop for medicine. From Les's counter, the truth's clear. Americans are broke, desperate, and running out of things to pawn. Redemption rates tell the real story. When people reclaim items, it means they've caught up a bit. When they don't, it means they never recovered. Right now, redemptions are at rock bottom. The mix of merchandise confirms it. Necessities have replaced luxury pawns. Even the tone has changed. No one haggles anymore. They just ask, "How much?" and take whatever's offered. There's no time to argue when the lights are about to go out. Les Gold's grim outlook comes from a place he built himself, an empire forged over decades that ended up defining him. But what was this empire, and how did it change him? 50,000 square foot empire that became a prison. Les Gold opened his first pawn shop in 1978 at the Green 8 Shopping Center in Oak Park, Michigan. He was newly married, supporting his wife Lily and chasing a dream bigger than his grandfather's shop, Sam's Loans, where he made his first sale at 7 years old. By 12, he was already hustling pizzas to classmates, understanding profit long before he understood algebra. That first shop was modest, local customers, small loans, nothing fancy. Les worked every counter, learned the trade inside out, and built a reputation for fairness in a city under strain. Detroit in the late 70s was rough. The auto industry collapsing, unemployment surging, crime everywhere. For most, that meant survival mode. For Les, it was an opportunity. Pawn shops thrive when people struggle. In 1993, he made the move that turned a local business into an empire. He relocated to a 50,000-square-foot former bowling alley on Greenfield Road, just south of Detroit's famous 8 Mile. The location was strategic, a dividing line between city and suburb, working class and middle class. The massive building let him handle hundreds of customers at once, store thousands of items, and dominate the market. From there, he expanded to 5 locations with nearly 200 employees and about 1,000 customers a day. That's 1,000 personal money problems walking through his doors, every single one needing appraisal, negotiation, and paperwork. It required staff who could spot fake diamonds, price used power tools, and keep cool when customers turned angry. Security was constant, with armed guards, cameras, and reinforced doors. The work was intense, risky, and relentless. Then came the call that changed everything. In 1998, TV producer Richard Dominic saw Les's local ads running during the Jerry Springer Show. He thought the chaos of American Jewelry and Loan would make great reality television. Les agreed to try it. Hardcore Pawn premiered on True TV in 2010 and immediately struck a chord, drawing 2 million viewers on its very first night. By 2013, that number had grown to over 3 million, cementing the show's place in reality television. Les Gold, along with his son Seth and daughter Ashley, became household names almost overnight. American Jewelry and Loan transformed into more than a pawn shop. It became a destination. Fans lined up for hours just to snap a photo, meet the family, and witness the famous negotiations in person. Les capitalized on his newfound fame, publishing For What It's Worth, a book blending business advice, negotiation strategies, and personal stories from decades in pawning, which soared onto the New York Times bestseller list. His expertise didn't just earn respect locally, it drew national attention. Major news outlets sought him out to explain the realities of money, negotiation, and human behavior, turning everyday pawn shop transactions into compelling lessons. From morning shows like Good Morning America to financial programs on CNN and Fox Business, Les became a recognizable voice, translating the constant hustle, high-stakes deals, and personal dramas of American Jewelry and Loan into insights about business strategy, survival under pressure, and the human condition. Viewers didn't just watch him haggle over jewelry or electronics. They saw him decode human motivation, showing how desperation, ambition, and choice collide when money is on the line. His ability to read people, assess risk, and negotiate effectively made him a go-to expert, bridging the worlds of commerce, psychology, and street-level economics in a way few could. Every interview, every segment positioned him not only as a pawnbroker, but as someone who understood the patterns of life under pressure and the lessons those patterns could teach about resilience, opportunity, and the value of human connection. But fame came with a cost. The pawn counter became a stage. Every argument, every deal, every tired moment was filmed, edited, and judged. The business could not run without him, and the cameras could not roll without him. He was 60 when the show began, and 63 at its peak, working 16-hour days, juggling production, media, and management with no break. The building that once symbolized success began to feel like a cage. The cameras never left, the pressure never eased, and privacy vanished. The success he'd chased for decades brought money, exposure, and respect, but it also stripped away peace, time, and freedom. The empire Les built to secure his family's future ended up owning him completely. Even while the empire hit its peak, Les's body finally pushed back against years of strain. And when it shut down, the moment shook everything. Chest pain at 51. Les Gold was in his early 50s when his heart gave out on him, right in the middle of what should have been the strongest run of his career. Hardcore pawn was still shooting, the shop was busy, and his profile in the pawn industry had never been higher. Then the chest pressure hit. At first, it felt like the usual strain he'd brushed off for years, the kind you ignore because there's inventory to move, customers waiting, and a production crew in the building. Pawnbrokers work through everything: fatigue, stress, lousy meals, and long hours. There's always another deal to close, another loan to write, another retail buyer waiting on the sales floor. So Les kept going until his breathing turned thin. This wasn't the normal short breath you get from rushing across the sales counter or hauling heavy gold testing gear. The air just wouldn't come. A few minutes later, the pain shot down his arm, the classic signal every EMT and cardiologist warns about. It was a full cardiac event. One of his coronary arteries had narrowed so badly that blood couldn't reach part of his heart muscle. Years of plaque buildup, cholesterol, fat, and calcium that tighten those vessels finally closed the gap. When blood flow stops, heart tissue suffocates, and that's a myocardial infarction. Les carried several risks. Heart disease ran in his family. He'd gained weight over the years, the kind that makes the cardiovascular system work over time. His daily life was built on non-stop pressure, high-stakes loan decisions, tense customer negotiations, security concerns, managing a family business on camera, and keeping multiple store locations running. Pawn operations are a stress engine, and chronic stress batters arteries and elevates blood pressure. His diet wasn't built for heart health either. Long days meant fast food, vending machine snacks, and whatever he could grab between filming and store traffic. It all worked against him. Emergency care stepped in fast. He went through a cardiac procedure, likely angioplasty with a stent. A catheter would have been threaded to the blocked artery, a balloon inflated to push the plaque aside, and a small mesh stent placed to keep the vessel open. It's common in cardiology, but it's still invasive and frightening. For once, Les had no leverage. The man who talked his way through decades of tough deals couldn't bargain with a dying artery. His fate rested entirely in the hands of the medical team. The blockage was cleared, blood flow returned, and the heart muscle stopped deteriorating. But a saved life isn't the same as a healed one. Heart attacks leave scars in the myocardium, tissue that will never beat as strongly as before. When doctors discharged him, they sent him home with a new rule book: lose weight, change how you eat, move daily, cut stress, take your meds, and show up for every follow-up. Each step sounded simple until you added them up. They demanded a full reset from someone who'd built his identity around non-stop grind, long shop hours, and the adrenaline of deal-making. The heart attack struck during the height of his professional momentum. Instead of celebrating ratings wins and strong loan volume, he was lying in a hospital bed, wondering if he'd live to see the next morning. And the emotional aftershock didn't fade quickly. When your heart fails once, every sharp breath feels like a warning. Every small pain makes you question if another artery is closing. The sense of control he'd carried for decades slipped away. For a man who'd always played the tough negotiator, The most painful part wasn't the procedure. He realized he wasn't bulletproof. His family saw it. His staff felt it. The show felt his absence. The aura that once powered every deal on the sales floor cracked, and nothing in the pawn business could hide that truth. The cleared artery gave less time, yet it also forced a choice. Did he rebuild his life, shop habits from the ground up, or risk another fatal cardiac collapse, losing everything that made life worth living? Recovery after the heart attack wasn't just medicine for Les. It was the slow unmaking of the life he had built in the pawn business. The cardiology team laid it out in plain terms: change everything or risk another cardiac collapse. There was no deal to make, no way to negotiate around the new rules. Weight loss became the first major shift. Every extra pound forced his damaged myocardium to strain harder, so his cardiologist gave him a target number and a strict timeline. It wasn't about fitting into old clothes. It was about reducing cardiac load so his left ventricle wouldn't fail again. That meant confronting every long-held eating habit. The comfort food that steadied him during tense loan negotiations disappeared. The quick fast food runs between customers were removed. Portions were cut. Food turned into medication, measured, controlled, and stripped of the old joy tied to long days at American Jewelry and Loan. He had to move toward a heart-healthy model: produce, whole grains, lean proteins, low sodium, and low cholesterol. Detroit's comfort food culture didn't fit a cardiac diet, so grilled replaced fried, steamed replaced buttered, and water replaced soda. Eating out stopped being simple. Restaurants hid salt, fat, and calories in every dish, and he became the guy ordering plain grilled fish, skipping dessert, and drinking water. Each meal reminded him how different life had become. Exercise shifted from optional to mandatory. The daily motion he got from walking the showroom and moving inventory didn't count anymore. He needed structured cardiovascular work, 30 minutes of walking most days, timed and monitored. It sounded easy until fear crept in. Every walk carried questions. Is my heart rate safe? Is this tightness normal? Am I pushing too hard? The walking routine ate into his workday. An hour spent on self-care meant an hour not spent on loan decisions, retail sales, or security issues. For someone who measured worth in output and availability, stepping away for exercise felt wrong, but the alternative wasn't negotiable. Over time, he added swimming, cycling, and anything to keep blood flow steady and the stent clear. Exercise wasn't recreation, it was survival medicine. Medication became a permanent part of the morning and night. Statins to cut LDL, beta blockers slow the heart, antiplatelets to keep the stent open. Each pill carried side effects and reminders that his cardiovascular system could no longer operate without pharmaceutical support. Stress reduction brought the hardest shift. Pawn operations produce non-stop tension, cash flow pressure, negotiations with sellers in crisis, retail disputes, security risks, staffing problems, family dynamics, and the added strain of filming. Every part of the job triggered adrenaline and cortisol spikes that cardiology flagged as dangerous. To lower stress, he needed distance from the counter. That meant stepping back from the iconic negotiating pit he'd ruled for decades. It meant trusting staff, letting Seth take the lead, and accepting that deals might unfold differently without his aggressive style. That old intensity, the approach that made good TV, was now a direct threat to his heart. Sleep needed a full reset. 7 to 8 hours became a requirement. With early store openings, long filming days, and constant calls, he'd lived on far less for years. Now he had to leave work earlier, delegate more, and trust his team. His social world shifted too. Friends and family began watching him, as he might break. They monitored meals, asked about stress levels, and urged him to slow down. Their concern felt like pity. Even love landed heavily. Follow-up appointments filled his calendar. Stress tests, lipid panels, echocardiograms, and cardiology check-ins turned into routine. Each visit came with quiet dread. Another blockage? A weakened ventricle? Signs of new cardiac distress? With every lifestyle change, pieces of his old identity fell away. The tireless work ethic that built the store became a liability. The stress tolerance that drove his negotiating edge no longer served him. His food habits, sleep patterns, and all the small rituals that shaped daily life had to be uprooted. Everything he used to rely on, his stamina, his grit, his appetite for long days, became something he had to give up. Each step toward survival felt like losing a little more of the man who built the pawn empire. And there was no way around it. His heart set the terms. Change fully or risk dying. While Les fought to rebuild his life around a damaged heart, his public image collapsed too. How did he lose it all? Fame vanishes overnight. The year 2015 hit Les Gold from two sides. First, his heart gave out, then his television show disappeared. The timing was brutal, landing both blows at the moment he was stretched thin and running on fumes. One day, he was a national face of the pawn trade. The next, he was a man trying to breathe without pain while watching a network pull the plug on the show that carried him into millions of homes. Hardcore Pawn had launched in the summer of 2010 and took off fast. Viewers locked in on Les, his son Seth, and his daughter Ashley as they worked the counters at American Jewelry and Loan. The show ran on pure street energy, with walk-ins bringing real merchandise, real problems, and real tension. Nothing was staged. The customers were Detroit locals who needed fast cash. The deals were straight pawn industry negotiations with actual money on the table. And the family friction was real because they worked together long before the cameras showed up. By 2013, the series was pulling a few million viewers an episode, giving Les a national platform no pawnbroker had ever enjoyed. He released a business book through a major imprint, climbed onto bestseller lists, and became a go-to commentator for business shows, economic panels, and financial newsrooms. His schedule turned into a grind of on-air hits, conference stages, book signings, and outreach tied to the pawn sector. He and Seth also took on executive producer roles midway through the run, adding creative calls and long production meetings to their already overloaded days. Then came 2015. True TV walked away from the show after 9 seasons. Ratings, cost structures, and shifting network priorities all played a part. The industry had changed around him too, with competing pawn programming pulling audiences in other directions. Once the network pulled production, everything shut down fast. The crew left, the cameras vanished, the weekly national exposure ended, and all those booked because you're on TV opportunities evaporated almost overnight. For Les, the identity loss cut deep. He had been the face of a franchise that reached millions. Now he was back to being a local operator in a crowded retail finance field. The public recognition slowed. The media calls stopped. The speaking fees dropped. And all this unfolded while he was climbing out of a cardiac crisis that had forced him to rethink his lifestyle completely. The emotional fallout was heavy. The show had validated his work, shaped his public role, and given him a purpose beyond the day-to-day churn of pawn operations. Losing it, while also battling a damaged heart, meant he was rebuilding his health while losing the very platform that had powered his career. Even his support system was strained. His kids were dealing with the collapse of their own TV exposure. The crew that once filled the store was gone. The business returned to its old rhythm, but Les didn't feel like the same man returning to it. He kept pushing to stay visible. Media hits, social updates, anything that kept him in industry conversations. But relevance in television fades fast. New personalities replace old ones, and Les found himself drifting into that vague space where people still remembered him, but didn't follow his work anymore. Yet he didn't have time to grieve the loss of celebrity. When he stepped back behind the pawn counter, he found something far more unsettling unfolding in front of him. The store had become a live feed of America's financial collapse. The pawn line stretched longer every week, while the redemption line, the line that shows who's climbing out of trouble, shrank to almost nothing. Customers weren't borrowing against valuables anymore. They were liquidating them because they knew they wouldn't recover financially enough to return. Contractors pawned their work gear, heavy equipment, pro-grade tools, and full kits because jobs dried up. Once stable families pawned laptops, tablets, and consoles because food and rent outranked everything else. People who once negotiated hard now accept the first offer without a word. They needed cash that minute. Pawn industry math calls that a shift from short-term lending to permanent asset loss. Middle-class customers who rarely stepped into a pawn shop before now stood shoulder to shoulder with everyone else. Teachers, nurses, and office workers, all bringing in whatever held resale value. Seasonal patterns vanished. Every week looked like a crisis week. Every transaction told the same story. People were patching holes in a sinking ship. Les had seen recessions before, but this felt different. People no longer believed things would improve. They lived week to week, crisis to crisis, pawning what they swore they'd never part with. And the emotional weight of those transactions, people crying at the counter, bargaining with empty leverage, selling pieces of their lives to survive another 7 days, hit him harder than it once did. He knew he was part of a system that kept people afloat, but also locked them into cycles of loss. And standing there, watching the volume of unredeemed tickets rise, he felt something worse than irrelevance. He felt like he was watching the country fall apart, one customer at a time. Les knows he's watching the country fall apart at his counter, one deal after another, and he can't stop it. What will it take to push him over the edge? Risk death or stop living. Every morning, Les Gold wakes up facing a choice that reshapes everything in his post-heart attack life. He can work the pawn counter beside his son Seth, feel that charge of deal-making, step into the family rhythm that once made for strong television, and take on the kind of stress that could trigger another cardiac event. Or he can stay back, follow the tight medical script his doctors insist on, and watch the empire he built drift from his hands while he is still here to see it. Either path takes something from him. The risk math is straight. Stress aggravates damaged arteries. The pawn counter is pure stress. Every day on that sales floor pushes him closer to another cardiac incident. The obstruction they cleared can return. A new one can form. A weakened heart can simply fail under load. Doctors use charts, stress test numbers, and clinical language, but the message stayed blunt. Working the counter could shorten his life, but stepping away strips him of his identity. Les is a pawnbroker down to the bone. His first sale happened when he was a kid. His first storefront opened before he turned 30. He spent decades turning a small Detroit shop into a nationally known pawn operation. That counter is not just where he works. It is where he's useful, skilled, and needed. Without it, he's left with a body tied to medications and restrictions. There is also the practical side. Wealth and brand value demand oversight. American Jewelry and Loan needs leadership. Seth is strong, but father-son leadership structures bring tension even without cameras involved. Handing over control means accepting the business will run differently than if Les were there every day, and fading from daily operations lowers his visibility. Pawn industry relationships, press requests, media calls, speaking gigs, they all depend on him being active and relevant. Pull back too far, and those connections fade. The Les Gold name loses weight if the man behind it steps out of sight. Psychologically, the shift hits hardest. Les spent a lifetime as the one people could rely on: customers, staff, family, and producers. Now he is the one being checked on, protected, managed, becoming the person who needs care rather than gives it cuts at the core of who he's been. His family watches him choose between two outcomes, neither of which he wants. If he steps back, they take over early under the weight of his absence. If he stays in the mix, they carry the fear of another emergency every day. Medical routines don't soften the blow. Cardiologist visits, imaging, adjustments to beta blockers and statins. Each appointment outlines new limits. Every test reminds him that his heart no longer belongs entirely to him. Les tries to compromise. Partial days, low conflict roles, letting others handle the tense deals, but half measures feel hollow. Light responsibilities feel like busy work. Keeping calm during tense negotiations feels unnatural. Even Detroit winters join the pressure. Cold strains the heart function. Snow removal is out. Ice becomes a hazard. Seasonal stress becomes another variable he can't control. Survivor's guilt creeps in. He lived through something many do not. He has resources others don't. He could retire if he chose to, but surviving doesn't feel like winning when survival requires losing what made his life meaningful. The clock keeps moving. His heart will not regain its old strength. His options narrow as time passes. Stepping back sooner gives him more years away from stress, but also takes more years from the counter he loves. Each day, people walk into his store choosing between unlivable options: pawn the ring or miss the rent, sell heirlooms or keep the lights on. Les sees his own story in theirs. Survival costs something vital, and once paid, the reward often feels thin. In the end, his choice stands unchanged and unsolved. Protect his heart by surrendering his purpose, or keep his purpose while risking the heart that keeps him alive. There is no middle route that gives him both, so he chooses day by day. Some mornings, he goes in, takes the stress, signs the slips, and works the floor. Other mornings, he stays home, follows his medical plan, and protects what strength he has. Either way, each decision cuts something away: time, purpose, identity, or safety. The man who made a career out of finding leverage has none left here. His heart sets the terms. His purpose defines the stakes. And somewhere between those two forces, Les Gold carries on with a choice that will follow him until one side gives out: his purpose or his heart. Les built a 50,000 square foot empire for his family, which almost killed him, leaving his kids to watch him choose between his health and everything he'd worked for. What sort of legacy is that? What would you do in Les Gold's shoes? Risk your health to keep the life you built, or play it safe and watch it slip away? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.